Dominic, welcome in the Netherlands.
Thank you for having me here.
Great event today.
Excellent event. Lots of customers in there.
Lots of customers and also lots of nice speakers from the front end of what's happening in your field. I want to zoom in on, you were talking about NSX and VMware, and basically the story was very simple. What you said was, you know what we've done for servers, and you know all these automation, and we can do that again, but in the process make the whole network a lot safer, because you would not be able to do that really by hand if you have a look at it.
Exactly.
What triggered me, or what I was thinking about, what is it that we haven't seen any innovation in the past 15 years and we had to wait so long on virtualization? What is it? You must have thought about it. Why was this a neglected area?
You know, I think it's a great question. So I think really the implication of these security risks on business now becoming public has really highlighted that problem for enterprises, right? And it's highlighted the problem sometimes in a very negative way for those enterprises who've been breached. They've lost customer data. The government entities who've been breached, and they've lost, you know, public or private information data. So you know, we always knew security and cybersecurity was a huge challenge for us. But it would kind of be the thing. Well, if I never got hacked, it's not really a problem for me, right?
You can't ignore it
exactly,
anymore now.
Exactly. So now, you know, you're seeing more and more governments regulate it. We have GDPR coming up, May 25th, 2018 in the European Union. We certainly have regulations around healthcare, financial services, credit card processing. So I think now it's become more front of line for business leaders, right? So we're actually seeing now CEOs, COOs, boards actually want to understand more what their risk is from a cybersecurity perspective and how it might impact their business. And now they're creating the initiatives. It's not technology people creating the initiatives. We knew we needed the initiatives for a long time. It's the technology people creating the initiatives that's driving the adoption of these new architectures, right? So even in the scenario where why wasn't anything invented to address this, because the market demand wasn't there pulling that, right? We were saying, hey, what we have is good enough. But now you have, you know, a new important market demand, and the reason we're so successful is our product fits that market demand very, very well. It addresses the problem very cost effectively, very scalably, and very efficiently.
But it's also a great narrative, right? Where because people have the context of how they then can deploy servers. Right. So if they can easily, you would say, translate that to networks. Yet that story is not so easy to convey, right? It's not,
you know, it's like anything else. Whenever you create new technology, people say, well, that's complicated. Well, it's only complicated because you haven't learned it yet, right? So, you know, if you don't know how to drive a car, driving a car is complicated, right? But if you go get some lessons and some practice, oh, this is easy now, this is what I do. So, you know, like I said, I think our biggest competitor has been do nothing, right? And for the industry of cybersecurity, for you guys, for us, the biggest competition has been do nothing. I'll just keep doing what I always do, because if I have to learn something new, it's complicated and I got to figure it out and I have to operationalize it and report on it and monitor it. However, when you have an objective customer who takes the time to sit back and understand the benefits they can gain if they go down this path, you tend to be very, very successful with that. So I think, you know, these new challenges, this world of cloud really dictated that we need to build a new architecture for networking and for security. And I think now that cloud has become real, it's inarguable at this point, right? Amazon was up before me and they said they'll do 10 billion in revenue, right, in AWS. I mean, you see SaaS, you see PaaS, you see IaaS, you see all of these initiatives now, and you see us trying to do that in the private data center, in the hybrid cloud, in the public cloud. So now you have the realization that the time is real, that we can't continue to move this legacy technology forward. It's just, its life cycle has run out.
Right, so, and it also overlaps really neatly with the need and the concepts of John Kindervag, which you also refer to, is that if you have to protect your crown jewels, but you have to put switches and configure, and it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, yeah.
So here you have a nice constellation of where you have your security requirements and automation requirements, and they overlap.
Right,
It's the same thing.
right.
Yet, how convinced are customers that they can actually take those concepts, which they know they can touch in their own data center or their own cloud, that they can actually do this in a Amazon or Google environment?
Perfect question.
How real is it?
How real is it? Yeah, it's because it's a perfect question, because I think, we sort of hold these massively scalable data center companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Azure, LinkedIn, up, right, as sort of the people who are really inventing the new technology. But they have the benefit of being in the technology business and the budget to go out and the scale
Unlimited.
to go out and hire developers to build it just for themselves, right? So they're not waiting for, Palo Alto Networks or VMware to design a solution for them. So they can go hire thousands of development engineers to develop infrastructure. The enterprise is not in the infrastructure business; they're in the financial services business, or retail, or healthcare, or whatever they're in. They're not going to go hire thousands of developers. So I think what you see over the last few years is a trend where we're taking some of these concepts that have been invented and deployed at scale in those massively scalable data centers and making them a mass market available commercial offering to those customers. So software-defined networking, right?
With
you look
hardware,
at software-defined storage, hyper-converged computing, hyper-converged infrastructure, software-defined networking, are things that were really invented there for their use case, and then some people said, hey, I want to build enterprise networks that way, right? So VMware went out, acquired a company called Nicira, which was founded by several Stanford University PhDs, Martin Casado, my old boss, right? And really said, I'm going to make that a commercially available mass market deployed opportunity for our enterprise customer base, so they can gain all of the advantages that these massively scalable data center customers can gain
so if
in their environment as well.
If you bring that back to what Marcel's observation, if you don't disrupt yourself, somebody else will.
Right.
Would that have been a company, if you had not brought it into your own house, that might potentially disrupt your existing business?
So it's
was it a necessity to get in that business?
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell, because you could sort of say, hey, technologically this is highly disruptive, but then what is the route to the market, right? Well, what do I do with all the customers who have vSphere? It only worked in open source hypervisors prior to us acquiring it. Now it works both in open source hypervisors and the vSphere hypervisor. And so it's in Zen, it's in KVM. Hopefully it'll be coming to Hyper-V soon. So and do you have a route to market that has the revenue that is sufficient in order to fund your business to continue to advance your capabilities?
It's more difficult what if question.
So it's not just starting a business. It's not just I have a great idea and now I've brought that idea to reality. Now you have to have enterprise class scalability. You've got to have a support team. You've got to have channel partners, right, with the right know-how and knowledge and customer intimacy to do it. So, I don't know if it would have been successful, right, without that. Nutanix has enjoyed, sort of being first to market in the hyperconverged space, but now you see, it's Nutanix, it's Simplicity, it's HyperFlex, it's VxRail, it's vSAN, it's, vCloud Foundation, and you see all of these things now. So it's a real market now, right?
Yeah.
And I think, we used the 5 years ago in SDN, nobody was making any money.
True.
Right? Well, it was like, and
now it's all over.
It's not really good for customers.
It's the only game in town, really.
Yeah.
So if it's always amazing in a market that you think, well, we've seen all the innovations, especially if you're in the market for a long time,
right?
And you tend to have a tendency to think, well, the big things, we've seen them all,
right?
But history changes. That history shows that. What's the next big thing?
Who knows?
What's the next big thing, according to personal opinion?
My personal opinion.
Next 5 years.
I think artificial intelligence will play a bigger role. I think when we start to talk
also in
about
network automation stuff.
Not only in network, but in the full stack of IT, right? We look at things like the self-driving car, right? I definitely need artificial intelligence to make that work. I look at IoE on a big picture and a big scale. I think I'm going to need artificial intelligence to play a bigger role there.
Also in our fight against hackers.
In our fight against hackers, right? Understanding where threats are coming from, how they're being propagated, what their purpose is, what their design is, how to proactively create code to defend against them.
Lots of nice action in that area. Startups
there's
too,
a lot of
right
action
now,
in that area. There's a lot of startups. But these things take. So what happens is we come up with this new concept, let's say artificial intelligence, and everybody's going to talk about artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence, but it's going to take 5 years for it to come to market. It's just like SDN. Everybody talked about SDN.
When the hype is over, the market starts.
When the hype is over, the market starts, right? And that's certainly the way it works. Same thing with hyperconverged infrastructure and open compute and software-defined storage. Containers is a perfect example right now, right? Everybody's containers. How many companies are making money off of delivering containers? Zero at this point, right? So it's not really a market yet. It's a great technology with a promise. It will become a reality, but it's just not there yet. Right. And it's normal for it to not be there yet, given where it is in the innovation life cycle and the go-to-market life cycle. So I think these things take a little bit of time.
Well, we'll keep it in mind because to close off, because this event is for the 4th time, we can actually follow these cycles.
We'll follow this. So next year we can talk about what happened 5 years ago, right?
Or in 4 years' time. I'm looking forward to talking about artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, and see you next year.
All right, pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.